Today, I want to talk about the 5 steps of entrepreneurship that you experience, especially if you're trying to start a business. So, for me, I'm trying to build a real estate business, I'm trying to build a social media business. And I can definitely tell you that I'm going through all these steps right now. So, the first step on the entrepreneur journey is something called uninformed optimism. Everyone can relate to this, right? This is the point where, oh, I just learned about apartment complex investing. I just learned about single family home investing. I just learned about short term rental investing. I just learned about self storage, mobile home parks, industrial, e commerce, drop shipping, whatever it is, whatever shiny object syndrome you have. And this is kind of the downfall of all, people of entrepreneur mindsets is we get excited very easily. There's uninformed optimism. We get really excited, really hyped up, want to take action, get really excited, give 100% and just do it all, right? But why it's called uninformed optimism is because you only see a snapshot of what it truly takes to be successful. Maybe you watched a YouTube video, maybe you listened to a podcast, maybe you have an uncle, and you see that, wow, they made so much money from owning real estate. They made so much money from owning apartment complexes. They made $1 million drop shipping. They made $1 million doing Airbnbs. They made $1 million doing an Airbnb course, right? Whatever it is, you see someone really successful at it, whatever the latest trend is, and then you dive into it, and it's called uninformed optimism. So this is when I call you have your rosy colored glasses. Nothing can ever go wrong, right? Everything will never go against you. You'll make money. You'll be successful. All that stuff, right? It's the phase of what I call hopium, right? Where you have the hope of a better life than what you currently have. You think it's gonna be easier. It's gonna be smooth, no issues. It's gonna be great, right? Someone's doing it. You can't make any mistakes. You're flawless, right? So this is called the uninformed optimism. And I'll give an example for myself. So for me, I thought once I dived into apartment complexes, I'd be so rich, can leave my W two job. And keep in mind, I bought my first apartment complex 2 years ago. And if you asked me 2 years ago and told me that I would own two apartment complexes, I would tell you that I'm retired. But fast forward 2 years, I'm still in the process of renovating and doing the value add strategy on my apartment complexes due to multiple delays. I had a delay in my contractor. It took longer to renovate the units. I had to wait for kitchen cabinets to come. I had to deal with COVID and May 10s didn't turn over as fast. Maybe it took me a little bit longer to rent out the units than I expected. So these are all these hardships that like you don't see. You only see the success of people, right? Like in the later steps, once they went through all 5 stages, but you're only at stage one, where you're just looking over at stage five, which is the success, and you don't see all the bumps and bruises that they've got along the way because you kind of missed all the behind the scenes. You just see the highlights and you see the end product. So this is how uninformed optimism arises. Like for me, I jumped into apartment complexes, and then shortly after apartment complex, I jumped into my mobile home park, and got quickly humbled that wow, it wasn't as easy as I thought it'd be, and it's a lot more work than I expected, and the returns and money isn't as great as I thought, right? And then I did e-commerce through a popular YouTuber where I can drop ship store products on Amazon. I can buy something on Walmart and sell it on Amazon. It's fully automated through this YouTuber, and I'd make $5,000 to $10,000 a month and retire from my day job. Right? I literally thought that when I signed up for the program. Spent $30,000 and said, well, if it takes me 6 months to make 5K a month, then I can make it back in a year, right? And then fast forward a year later, the store loses money. I ended up closing down the store. Another example is I tried to open my own pharmacy, right? Uninformed, even though I'm a pharmacist, right? I'm a pharmacist that works in the hospital setting, and even I had uninformed optimism of what it takes to really operate my own retail independent pharmacy. Like it's hard to get new customers. When you fill prescriptions on drugs, some you make money on, some you lose money on, and it's a volume game. You have to offer free delivery. You have to pay for a driver. You have to pay for a pharmacist, a technician. There's a lot of expenses, and you're at the mercy of insurance reimbursing you. Sometimes they might delay in paying you for some reason, or there's issues holding it up. So your cash flow constrained. So you had multiple things with, uninformed optimism. And as you kind of start doing it, you kind of hit phase two, which is called informed pessimism, right? So I hit this of all my examples. I go through it again. So for apartment complexes, I thought, oh, 1 year, renovate this, really easy, really smooth, cash flowing, I'm done. But as I started to own, apartment complex for the past 2 years, I realized everything takes a lot longer than you anticipate, and everything costs a lot more than you anticipate. And your initial underwriting or performa may not be as good as you anticipated, right? Like for me, I bought my 20 unit with a hard money loan, 9% interest only. And I bought that in May of 2022. When I do a cash out refinance in, June, July 2023, interest rates skyrocketed. Lenders are a lot more difficult to work with because of the uncertainty. Interest rates are going up every, quarter. Every time there's a report, interest rates go up. And I was able to do a cash out refinance. I only put out $80,000, but I put in $200,000 in the deal. So I let the $120,000 in the deal. But if you asked me, like a year ago when I first bought the apartment complex, I thought I was gonna get all my down payment, which was 80,000, all my renovation costs, which was 120,000, and an additional 80K on top of that. I thought I was gonna have a home run deal. Instead, it became a base hit. So this is what I mean by informed pessimism. My mobile home park. I thought by now I've been owning it for almost 2 years now that I would turn over the tenant base, fix it all up, rent it out to high quality tenants. But it's been completely the case, right? Like it took a lot more money than I expected, a lot more time than I expected, a lot more stress than I expected, a lot more barriers than I expected. My property manager, who I thought was going to be amazing, is terrible. Like they overpromised, underdelivered, and all they're good at doing is bullshitting and saying bullshit, but their actions do not align. So everything hit me, and on top of that, I had COVID to go through, right? So it was hard to evict tenants. It became more expensive to evict tenants. I needed a security guard due to crime. The on-site property manager got lazy and complacent, and couldn't really collect rent. So now I got informed pessimism. Where if you asked me, 2 years ago when I bought my mobile home park, oh, nothing can go wrong. This is my golden goose. This is gonna retire me. I bought it for like $1 million. This will be worth 10 million when I'm done with it, and it's gonna be great and easy. But once I hit phase two of informed pessimism, that's when I realized, oh wow, like this isn't as great as I thought. Same with the e-commerce. Like I thought I was gonna make $5,000-10,000 a month, passive, super easy. Can retire from my day job and focus full time on real estate. Focus full time on teaching and creating content on YouTube. But quickly found out that every month the company was buying products and selling it at a loss, and every month I was putting out money to the point where I just said, you know what, forget this. I don't even want to do this anymore. It's causing me more stress than it's worth. So I just took the loss and lost 30K. Informed pessimism. Um, Single family homes, right? Like I bought a bunch of single family homes. Um, in California, it's great in terms of appreciation, but in terms of cash flow, you're negative, right? Or breaking even. And if you have to do a repair or maintenance issue, then it's not as great as it is. So phase two is informed pessimism. I'm going through that right now through multiple assets, right? Through my mobile home park. I realized that, what, mobile home park's not for me, right? You can make money through mobile home parks, but I'm not willing to put in the time, the effort, the energy, the capital, the stress. It's not my cup of tea. E-commerce, hey, that's not my thing. I thought it was gonna be passive, and ended up, causing me more stress than needed. Got rid of it. The pharmacy, even though I'm a pharmacist, owning my own pharmacy wasn't worth it, right? Like it was losing money. Like, what's the point? Like, I'd rather just work my day job, get paid a W-2 income, a lot easier, a lot less stress. Apartment complexes, things took a little bit longer than expected. Things costed more than expected. Um, and interest rates are going up, so you can't really do a cash out refinance anyways. You're kind of stuck with your loan. So that's part of phase two, where you go from uninformed optimism in phase one, and phase two is informed pessimism. So phase three is something called the crisis of meaning. So I'm currently at this phase right now, I would say. Um, and basically, how I describe it to my girlfriend is every day I feel like I'm getting beaten up. As an entrepreneur who owns 90 units of real estate and works at a full time W 2, I'm getting beaten up every day. There's a problem every single day that costs money, right? Like, oh, the bid for my 26 unit apartment complex went over. The bid for my 20 unit went over. The bid for my mobile home park went over. Oh, mobile home unit burned down. Oh, I had to evict two tenants and they scribbled Sharpie drawings all over the wall. And now I have to, repair the units, which cost me more than the security deposit. And I have to send these guys to collections to try to collect the rest. Maybe I rented out, maybe my property manager is not renting out units as fast as I thought they should be, right? Maybe they're slower than I anticipate. Things are costing more expensive. I have a lot of HVAC units breaking down because it's summertime, right? So, I'm basically getting hit every single day where I just said, I just want small wins in life. And I kind of had to like purposely instill small wins in me that are like so simple, like, oh, hey, like you survived today. Oh, good job. Went to the gym today. Oh, great. You journaled today. You created content today. Like just whatever little win that I could get because I was feeling I was getting beaten up by everything, right? I was getting beaten up every single way possible, and it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good, right? My net worth went up. I'm getting beaten up every day. It doesn't feel good. So, what is beating up every day caused me a lot of stress, right? I've never been this stressed my entire life, right? I've really never was stressed financially ever in my life. Now I experience what financial stress is like. I never, woke up in the middle of the night just stressed from owning all my real estate. Like real estate never stressed me until recently. Um, I never really stressed on my W 2 job, but now because I'm doing my business after hours, it's kind of burning me out and it trickles into my W 2 job. So, because of that, I hit phase three, which is crisis of meaning. I just said, like, why am I doing all this? Why am I going through this grind? Why am I beating myself up? Why am I stressing myself unnecessarily? And my lifestyle is not necessarily improving, right? Like, I have the same lifestyle as I did before I owned any real estate versus 90 units. So why am I doing this? Like, why was I doing it so fast? Right? Why did I buy 80 units in 8 months? Why did I do e-commerce? Why did I do my own pharmacy? And, what kind of boiled down to was because I got laid off from my pharmacist job at a hospital during COVID, it just really shook me. And I overcompensated by going all in onto like side hustles, side businesses to retire me from pharmacy because I had such a sour taste in my mouth from it. Like I poured so much of myself into pharmacy. It's 5 years of schooling. Got additional certifications. Yeah, I did everything what you should. I was an AW2 employee, and I was the one that got laid off. So I was just like, okay, like why do I want to put effort in pharmacy when I should put my own business? And I can't do that to retire myself. So I was like sprinting. I was like dev sprinting towards financial independence, early retirement. But I was so caught up in the grind that I never really paused to self reflect. And that's when, once I burnt out, once I hit my maximum mental capacity, once I pushed myself to the limits financially, renovating all these units and covering operating costs and expense. Once I definitely push myself to these limits, that's when you're the most stressed and you're what you call rock bottom. That's when you come to realizations. And what I realized is like, you know what? I just need to do one or two things and do one or two things very great. And for me, those one or two things is number one is just buying real estate, right? And specifically buy single family homes in California because I know that, and buying apartment complexes in Oklahoma because I know that. Those are my two unfair advantages, right? I own a bunch of single family homes in California, actually own a single family home in Alabama as well, and then apartments in Oklahoma. So just do those three. If I commit to those three for the rest of my life, I have way more wealth than I'll need, and I have unfair advantage because I have systems and teams in place there already. I have a team, I have a system in California. I have a team, I have a system in Alabama, like Huntsville, Alabama, and I have a team and a system for my apartment complex in Oklahoma. So, if I were to buy more, it wouldn't be that much stressful for me. And I know the area, I know the rents, I know how to renovate it. I have a team there. Like, why not just go all into that? The next thing I liked is like just teaching, right? Like, I'm really passionate about teaching. That's what got me into like, creating a mentorship, YouTube, just sharing my journey is that I wish someone taught me. And I just love to teach people so that they don't have to go through the pain that I went through. So, just being my low, I just realized that, I just want to focus on those two. And then like I noticed that like going through the past like 3 years of really scaling in real estate, I lost my, carefree, happy go lucky attitude. Like if you met me 3 years ago, very carefree. You love to joke around. It's always happy, not stressed. But for the past 3 years, since you're getting beaten up every day, you kind of lose that, right? You're kind of tired. You're kind of grouchy. You're no fun to be around. You're moody. You snap. You have a short temper. You're grouchy. You kind of isolated. It's like everything, right? So I just realized, like, man, like I went a little bit too fast, and it's compromising me a little bit. But I learned that there's a happy medium that where I could still be happy go lucky, still be myself, but still scale a real estate portfolio. And my realization was like, why was I going so fast? Or why was I trying to go so fast? Like, I'm still very young at 33, right? Imagine I do this for 30 years. Like, why am I going so fast? Why not enjoy the present? And, my quality of life wasn't necessarily improving. Like, the more units I owned, to be honest, like, my quality of life hasn't improved. So I'm just like, it's better to own 50 good units versus 90 units that aren't that good or stable, right? So that's what inspired me to kind of sell my mobile home park and just really stabilize my apartments before I buy more real estate, right? So I want to be more methodical about things. Like, okay, next moving forward, I'm not going to do three value add deals at the same time. I'm going to wait till everything's stabilized. Once it's stabilized and I'm ready and I gave myself a break, I'm going to buy another value add apartment complex, spend 3 years to fix that up, and once it's done, then buy another one and repeat every 3 years, right? Like slow and steady wins the race, right? Tortoise and the hare. It's out there. I just don't listen to my own advice, right? Nor the advice that people give me, because I'm always go 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 go, like run as fast as you can, def sprint, right? I'm trying to sprint here when it's a marathon. So that was my crisis of meaning, like, and then also I realized that like I don't need as much money as I thought. Like literally, if I sell my mobile home park and I'm down to 50 units, if I just own those 50 units and they stabilize, that's enough money to retire me from my W two job, which is like between 10 to 20K a month net, tax free. And like I don't really care for like the fancy things, right? Like yeah, it's nice to have a nice car, but I don't need a nice car. Like I have a car that works. I don't care for nice clothes. Like I have clothes that works, functional. I don't care for like super lavish vacations. Like I can fly economy. I don't need to stay at the nicest hotel. I just need to be in a hotel where it's in a good location, it's decent, it's clean. And because most times when I travel, I don't even stay in the hotel anyways, right? Like I don't need to stay at 5-star hotels. Like I have just as much enjoyment eating street food as I do eating Michelin star restaurants, right? I'm pretty, low key lifestyle, and I don't need a big house. Like to me, like a big house was like kind of like an ego thing. Like I used to live in a 2,300 square foot. Now I live in a 400 square foot studio with my girlfriend, and it's honestly nicer. Just like it's less to clean. Like there's all this. I use all the space, and like you don't need as much space as you think, right? So like I mean, I don't need as big of a house as I initially thought. So don't get me wrong. Later, when it makes more sense, yeah, I might buy a bigger house or I might buy a nice car if I want to. But like right now, I'd rather have the freedom, um, and be unstressed. So that's kind of phase threes, right? So it's crisis of meaning. Stage four, which I'm trying to avoid, is the crash and burn. So crash and burn is when you basically get wiped out, you go bankrupt, right? So a lot of real estate investors, they got wiped out in 2008. Right now it's a little bit scary because interest rates are going up. The real estate market's a little bit unpredictable right now. We don't know how it's going to go. So a lot of people are kind of standing still and waiting, right? Because you learned from last time. Like sometimes if you buy too many good deals too fast, you can crash and burn from that too. Number one is if, and that's what led me to sell my mobile home park as well. Because like I realized that what, I'd rather sell my mobile home park, have the reserves, good reserve, like more reserves than I anticipated, to cover my apartment complex in case something happens, and I won't be stressed. And because if I kept all three and my reserves too little, I can wipe through all my reserves, and that's when you crash and burn. That's when you go bankrupt and have to sell something at a loss. But I can sell my mobile home park at break even, right? It's not a win, it's not a loss. But I sell it at break even, get my capital back, and save that capital to cover any expenses for my apartment complexes in case of a rainy day. Maybe a roof breaks, maybe there's a hailstorm. I don't know. I can cover it, right? So for me, I just thought like, okay, put your ego away, sell it, have the reserves, pay, cover your apartment complexes, and then when you're ready, and once those two apartments are done, you can use that money to buy more apartment complexes. So I'm trying to mitigate myself from crashing and burning. That's why I cut the cord, or I'm cutting the cord on my mobile home park. That's why I had to cut the cord on the e-commerce. That's why I had to cut the cord on my pharmacy, because I learned, and if I try to sustain all of this, why sustain five things when I crash and burn? I'd rather have three things which are rock solid and a good foundation, right? You have to build a strong foundation before you build up upon it. And I felt like my foundation was too weak. So now I'm trying to strengthen my foundation right now. So during times of recession, during times of the hard times, that's when you get to kind of pull back, play defense, and reassess what's really important and what's needed, right? Like I don't need my e-commerce. I don't need my pharmacy. I don't need this mobile home park, right? I don't need to do anything shiny object syndrome right now, right? So I'm trying to mitigate phase four, which is crash and burn. And this is where a lot of entrepreneurs give up, right? Like they'll crash and burn and then they'll try something new and start over at uninformed optimism, right? And then repeat uninformed optimism, think it's great, informed pessimism, get reality check. Number three, get a crisis of meaning again. Number four, crash and burn, right? So like you want to avoid phase four, which is crash and burn. Phase five is when you start to go up again. This is called informed optimism. So at first you were uninformed and optimistic, then you became an informed pessimist. You had a crisis of meaning. You avoided the crash and burn, and now you're informed optimism. And that's the point where I kind of hit now with apartments. I said, you know what? I know apartment complexes in Oklahoma very well. If I do it over my lifetime, I will have more than enough wealth and I know what to do with. If I just keep on buying single families in California, I have more than enough wealth I know what to do with. If I keep on buying brand new builds in Huntsville, Alabama, I have more than enough money and I know what to do with. And I have teams in place. So if I just stick at those three and do it for the rest of my life, you're talking 40, 50 years, there's no way I can lose. Once I got that clarity, I realized, wow, this is it. And same with like YouTube. Like I realized that it's just a consistency. Like none of my videos go viral. I barely get views, barely like subscribers, but can I do this for 10 years? Yeah, I could, right? If I put it in for 10 years, I'll probably have a bigger audience than I ever anticipated, right? So now I'm informed, taking the action step needed. So, this is when you become successful. And this is when people view you and say, wow, this guy made so much money through real estate, but they didn't see all the other phases that I went through. So hopefully you found this valuable. In summary, the five phases are: number one, uninformed optimism. This is shiny object syndrome. Number two is informed pessimism. This is the reality check. Number three is this is the crisis of meaning. This is like, why am I doing this? Why did I do this? Or you learn something. Number four is crash and burn. Hopefully you can avoid this, ideally. Or if you need to crash and burn, then so be it, right? So you want to avoid. Number five is informed optimism. This is when you truly become successful as an entrepreneur, right? So the kind of key point is if you just do one thing, you just go through these five phases one time and you spend most of your time in informed optimism. But if you keep on changing and having shiny object syndrome, you're going through the first four phases, which is the terrible phases, right? These are the most stressful phases of it all. So why would you want to start over again if you already hit phase five of informed optimism? So hopefully you found value from this video. Please like, comment, subscribe, and hope to see you in the next one.